Back on Sports 225, and right before the break, I alluded to two things, but the first was how John Calipari, the coach of Kentucky, owes everything to Johnny Jones. That's because Johnny Jones was the interim head coach at Memphis way back when, and when he left, Calipari got that job, which pretty much launched him back into college prominence, because he had success at UMass, where he vacated one of his Final Fours and then went to the NBA. I think it was the Nets. Right. And then got that job at Memphis. Right. But anyway, don't say anything. That's okay. So then the next thing I alluded to was one of the greatest turnarounds. What happened this year with a player you have named Charles Carmouche, who also played at Memphis back in the day. This kid, what he has become in the last month is remarkable. How did that happen?
Well, first off, John Calipari's deal, he's been a great coach. In his
I knew you were going to say something about
the only thing is, we had some great players there when he took over the job, and he did a tremendous job with them. But Charles Carmouche, I tell you, can't say enough about him and how I think he's really grown over the last few weeks. In terms of his leadership with his team, he came in with that, and that was something that I was hoping that really would rear its head and be a more key spot for us and something we could point to, because we did not have that with this team, and I thought he would be able to bring that leadership, that toughness in someone who've kind of been through the wars, and he was able to do that. But I think over the last few weeks, he's really put those blinders on. I think he see that light at the end of the tunnel. He's extremely focused in terms of what he needs to do, and I think he's done a tremendous job of not only leading by talking, but I think he's been leading more by example the last few weeks, and I think that's shown in his play as well.
But I mean, there have been games when he's had a whole bunch of rebounds. He plays a really nice defense, but his offensive game has elevated to where, I mean, he's going to make himself a bunch of money. If he doesn't, he might get a look in the NBA, but he can play pro somewhere.
Well, absolutely.
And I'm not sure 6 weeks ago I might have said that.
Yeah, I think he has the ability to get an opportunity to go overseas and make him some money right now. But I think he's one of those guys that you can see in a few years coming back. I think it's because of the numbers, not having an opportunity to play and give himself a lot of credibility in terms of the NBA scouts or whatever right now. But I think there's someone that they will keep an eye on. He had a series of injuries. He's been hurt as well. Started off the season that way, hadn't really been 100%. But the good thing is he's learned to be able to play through that as of late and done a tremendous job. And so I'm excited about Carmouche and his future.
Yeah, and just because I didn't say this earlier, he's a fifth-year, first-year player at LSU because he was able to transfer in. Anyway, another great success story, and I think people expected this, but maybe not the way it transpired, was with Johnny O'Bryant. He was banged up to begin the season. I think he's battled stuff all year, but he's your closest thing you have to a prototypical big man. With all due respect to Andrew Del Piero, who is 7'3", but he's not a prototypical big man.
Well, I think with Johnny and what people have seen and the way that he's had an opportunity to excel, last year Johnny had the luxury of playing behind three really good post guys, or not having as much of a responsibility when you have Justin Hamilton and Storm Warren and those guys that can really take up a lot of the slack for you. And so you just kind of playing in those guys' shadows. Now he's out of those guys' shadows, and he is that lead guy that we're looking to make the impact for us. And we put a lot on his shoulders. And I thought early on it was a little more difficult for him. Not sure how he embraced that role, especially with the injuries that held him back, sidelined him for a couple of games.
He had a calf injury or something.
Had a calf injury, anchored, bothered him a little bit. And when he was able to start playing and getting 100% and start giving maximum effort in practice, I think that was able to translate into good play for him down the stretch, and he's been able to do that. And I think the last month and a half, we've seen a healthy Johnny O'Bryant, and someone who's been able to put up numbers on rebound and scoring, and have really become a better defender and really become a better basketball player. We put a lot on his plate, asked him to do a lot. Didn't realize when they got here that Johnny hadn't really been a block-to-block player, not even in high school, even at his size. Did more facing up and had the liberty to do that his freshman year here. But we needed him on that block, and I think he's made an impact when he's gotten down there.
He did a couple things, I think, and see if you agree. One was he finally figured out that when you get the ball in the low block and you get double or triple teamed, somebody's open, and if you make a good pass, they score. It's all good. that seemed like a hard lesson to get across to him, which he eventually did.
Well, it's something that he hadn't had an opportunity to go
Right.
through, Lee. And the other thing is he didn't understand how important it was for him to get fouled down there and score easy baskets at the free throw line, and at the same time put the other team or get us in the bonus because of the fact that we got them to the 7 foul count early. Didn't know the importance of that, and I think he understands that now.
Yeah, not that the free throws helped this guy at all. But for the other day, you were pretty good against Ole Miss, but this has not been a good LSU free throw shooting team. The other thing about O'Brien is, and see if you agree with this, is I think also, too, midway through the season, he stopped playing for the name on the back of the jersey and started playing for the name on the front of the jersey. I think somewhere along the line, a lesson came through to him that being a good team guy and not worrying so much about anything else was the way to go.
Well, the good thing for John, in his credit, I don't think he's a selfish player. I just didn't think he understood the impact, the pace that he really had to play day in and day out. I think team's always been important to him. I think winning's always been important to him. I just didn't think he understood the how to get that done.
All right, one more thing in this segment. You mentioned Hamilton, who went pro when he didn't have to, and I hope every day he looks back and sees how good this team is doing and saying how he could have been a part of it. That's a whole nother story. Had he not left, or had he, Andrew Del Piero would not have gotten all of the reps and good faith and actual playing time that you've given him. And it's because you did that, which at first I thought you were crazy. And then the end result has been, I mean, we're talking about a guy, and everyone knows this story, that he was a trombone player they pulled from the band. And Johnny, it's the damnedest thing. I mean, he's become a decent college basketball player at some levels and actually realistically can think, I might get a chance to earn money playing basketball down the line.
Well, I can tell you, I really loved to have had that problem with him and Hamilton, both being
Yeah, right,
here
right, exactly.
and then having Andrew excel the way that he has and in the way that he's really improved. But I think the time and energy that he put into it, I think the time and energy that the coaches really put into him and the way that his teammates rallied around him when they saw that he was making some positive strides and some great things happening for him. I think it meant a lot to him. It's something that he welcomed, he was excited about, and I think that's why he's been able to make the type of transition that he has. And I mean, he's accomplished a lot on the offensive end. He's a load down on that block. He's really tough, and it's a matchup problem if he can get an angle on you. And on the defensive end, he's done a great job of altering shots and making people have to shoot up over him and blocking shots when he didn't. He altered them, and at the same time getting rebounds inside. So he's been really good for us, and I'm sure he's a part of a lot of teams' scouting report now when they're working on it. So he's been really good for us this year.
Yeah, but that's all part of the praise that I was giving you before about being such a good coach, because I'm sure the team saw what you were doing with him, and they loved it, and they love him. And then one more thing. The other day, it was senior day, with 16 seconds to go, all of a sudden I think you remembered, timeout. And you got Michael Williams,
yes.
Williams, a walk-on who hadn't played but maybe 3 or 4 minutes the whole year, and got him in there for senior night. And that was good. I was glad you remembered and you got a chance to get him in the game.
Well, I was hoping that we were going to have an opportunity to get him in early in being that we had some type of cushion and hopefully we were leading. But I had in the back of my mind, and I was hoping that the game would be at some point that we could give him an opportunity to be out there on the floor. And I hadn't forgot about him. And right there at the end, when I didn't think that we were going to make that push that we needed, wanted to try and get him in. His family was in town, get him on the floor for that one last opportunity to be here in front of our great crowd.
That was really nice. I'm always glad when a coach remembers people like that. He's Johnny Jones, the first-year LSU basketball coach, but except for the time that he was gone, it seems like you've been here your whole life. We got to take a break. We'll come back with one last segment here on Sports 225.